Thank you for joining this session. We wanted to grab a couple minutes to tell you about a case study we have at 2X in driving 40% more growth, the same time as 30% less spend. I am Dominic Colasante, founder and CEO of 2X. Previously, I was the CMO, the company called W Group. And so I'm a marketer now trapped in the CEO's body. And here with Lisa Cole, CMO of Cellebrite and former head of marketing at Faro Technologies.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a great story. Can't wait to jump in. So let's start with a bit of context setting. So the conditions that we're in, every CMO feels this. I certainly felt it when I was a CMO, although the intensity of this conversation has reached a level that I've never seen. But we're all simply being tasked to do more with less. But more specifically, can we reduce our marketing spend by sometimes, 50%? I've seen 30%, 40%. I talk to CMOs all the time that are getting asked to do this by their CEOs, their CFOs, their boards. Can we reduce the spend at the same time as increasing the pipeline, the ROI, the engagement, put more visibility on that, deliver more impact? By the way, you can work some AI into that, do more with less. And, all this MarTech that we've spent money on over the last couple of years, it has this amazing potential. Can we use more of that and deliver more results? And I think as a CMO, we're grasping with all of these pieces at the same time and really in a place where we have to think differently. And we give that a name at 2X. We call it the marketing resource paradox. And we believe there's a situation we're all in where we are constrained on resources, whether a resource is a person or a budget, time or capacity or skills. We never have enough resources to do the things we need to do because we feel that way. But then also, I spend my career talking to CMOs of high growth companies, enterprise sized companies, and I very seldom run into a CMO or a CEO who feels like there's enough impact coming out of marketing, whether ideally it's ROI or revenue, but short of that, pipeline or engagement or one of the many acronyms we use to define engagement. And so not enough resources, not enough impact. But at the same time, we see we're getting less resources being asked to deliver more impact. And we know there's this sort of connective chicken and egg on these, right? We need resources to create impact. We need impact to justify more resources. So we sort of get into this unsolvable problem where we have not enough of either of these and yet have to produce more of one with even less of the other. We call that the marketing resource paradox. We think the only way to solve this problem is by thinking strategically and transformationally with respect to the organizational chart, the operating model. And so I founded 2X about 6 years ago. As originally customer number one, we're now a firm with about 100 customers in the B2B space and about 1,000 employees just over that 6-year time period. And really, we've built a model that enables doing more with less through a different lens. And that is looking at the org chart, looking at the operating model, looking at what work is being done internally or should be done internally, work that only you can do, that sort of core business value creation across all the key functions. And then what work is a run process where you want it to be standardized with best practices that operates efficiently, that has expertise and scale that you may not have yourself. And really bifurcating the work into those two buckets, thinking about shared services, global service delivery, and a different operating model where you can bring in resources from other places and other firms who are expert in that, can really drive a significant reduction in the organizational cost of marketing at the same time as more skills, more expertise to drive more. And so I'm excited to have with me Lisa Cole to tell you two stories of where she has used this model. And so, Lisa, why don't I throw the mic over to you to talk about Faro?
Well, so thank you for setting the stage there so wonderfully. Look, at the end of the day, every CMO I've talked to has found themselves in a situation where they were told to either cut their budget or improve their flexibility. When I accepted the position at Faro, this was back in September of 2019, I signed the offer letter, and within a couple of days, I received an email from the CFO and the CFO said, "Congratulations, we're so happy you're joining the team. You've got a $16 million budget. But here's the deal. We are working on repositioning this company to a more desirable financial model. And to do that, I need you to cut $5 million out of the marketing budget. And when you do that, I also need you to dramatically improve the flexibility of the spend for this organization in two ways. One, the balance between personnel and non-personnel dollars needs to improve dramatically, because today most of our dollars are spent on people. And secondly, whatever remaining dollars we have locked up in more than 700 events worldwide. And so most of our spend is contractually committed, and you need to fix that. So my response to that email was, I look forward to having the conversation with you. I appreciate you letting me know before my first day. But, this sounds a whole lot like solving for world peace, right? So let's take $5 million out of the marketing budget. That's basically effectively almost 30%. After you take the $5 million out, now you need to achieve a 45% personnel, 55% non-personnel. So that was a dramatic shift. And then I get to go play whack-a-mole with all the events to free up some money, some program spend, so that we can invest in lower cost digital channels to dominate online. Correct. That's the challenge. The added lens he put on it was that all this work needs to be completed by February 20th so that we can execute against it and go into our next earnings call with an announcement of savings that we're going to be driving in an effort to right-size the financial model of this company. So I had to work from October to February 20th to get my house in order to achieve these cost savings. And by the way, not undermine the ability for this team to do the work for the company, keep the ship rolling, keep the plane in the air. And if you think about the timing of that, we did execute on it by February 20th. The pandemic hit us March 16th. And so that just added a whole nother layer. So that's setting the stage. While I would offer that it was a bit of a perfect storm, I've talked to many marketers since that have found themselves in very similar shoes, right? Whether that's, a reduction in their budget post-pandemic, or the recognition that a company can no longer grow revenue at all costs, and that it needs to be about profitable growth and predictable and reliable growth. And oh, by the way, you can't just think that you can solve a business problem by throwing another headcount at it. So that was the work that we did at Faro. You'll see here on the left, when we started shaping the transformation, we certainly had our starting spend. We also knew from a demand standpoint what the overall targets were going to be. Recognizing that the only way we could improve revenue efficiency and grow revenue is if we manage the demand we created much better. And the CEO and CFO gave us some targets from a total return on marketing plan standpoint. We then started with reorganizing, restructuring, and reducing the size of the marketing organization. I think we had started with north of 75 people. On February 20th, we brought it down to 26, which was, in and of itself, a huge reduction. And what we decided to do was that we would keep the core team of strategists, and that we would outsource anything that felt like it was production or a highly technical role. We knew we needed new competencies and skill sets in the organization. And I turned to my mentor. Her name is Debbie. And Debbie said, I had a similar problem where budget wasn't necessarily the concern, but I couldn't hire internally. And we've been using an organization called 2X. And they have done amazing things for our team. And I think you should give it a look. And I reached out to Dominic, and we started with the really difficult role, one that we felt we couldn't actually source ourselves. And that started with Dominic. I'm fairly certain that was a certified Sitecore web developer.
It was.
It was basically the version of Finding a Unicorn. And sure enough, we had that role staffed in 2 weeks, which would never have happened internally for any amount of money. Anyway, so that's where the adventure with the 2X team started. We scaled it out. When you think about the marketing ops organization, it was everything from data and analytics to email production. It also included an ABM team. We were implementing 6sense, and we needed support in not just getting that set up, but also building and orchestrating the campaigns in 6sense. So, and if I'm not mistaken, we also used you to kind of transform our workflows and then automate that in Jira, which was never really intended to automate marketing workflows. So the fact that your team was able to help us turn Jira into a workflow resource management platform is also pretty extraordinary. So, Dominic, do you want me to jump into the results?
Please, yeah.
That's
the exciting part.
Yeah. So you'll see that I was able to reduce the budget by nearly $8 million. So it's a 50% reduction. I know that sounds strange that would be something I would celebrate, but when you think about the timing with the pandemic, the original ask of 5 million happened before the global pandemic hit. After the pandemic hit, and our only 3 market segments were all heavily impacted by the pandemic, it became more of a transformation to recover the business, to return the business to pre-pandemic revenue growth. So we all agreed to further reduce our expenses in order to make that an easier play. So we did reduce the budget further. I did successfully augment the team. In fact, more than 50% of the team is actually 2X team members. And from having a greater impact standpoint, we were able to candidly change all 3 measures, right? So we improved, the ability to convert more of what we were creating. And that's because you helped us actually with ABM related strategies. We closed the leaks in the lead to sale or lead to revenue pipeline. That's through the marketing ops support that we had to completely re-engineer our processes in Salesforce and Marketing Cloud. And then we also went and accelerated the velocity. And that had everything to do with the enabling capabilities, the assets that we have been developing to help support the sales conversation. So that was content, interactive assets. Overall, we were able to deliver a much higher return on investment. At the same time, it eventually became where we were viewed as a growth engine for the company, that the CFO would turn to me and say, I did save additional funds over here in this functional group. If I were to give it to you, where would you invest it and why? And so it became that conversation versus, how do you do less? Stop doing those events, stop sending those emails, stop doing the ads. It was never that kind of conversation for us. So it's overall amazing. Team did a hell of a job. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, the audience is fortunate that they get a double feature today. Yes. And there was one after that too.
So after the Faro transformation story was intentionally a 3 to 4 year adventure. When we accepted the position with the company, we knew it was a restructure and a repositioning. So after this transformation was principally complete, I decided to seek out new opportunities, found myself in another CMO role, and it was a complete do-over, but with a very different catalyst. So this wasn't about reducing spend. This was about effectively repositioning the organization from being viewed as one thing to another. And how do we accelerate the growth as the market leader? So this particular transformation is underway. right out of the gate, though, after, having learned what worked at Faro, recognizing that if I was going to scale with this rapidly growing company, the answer again, and should never be, I want to hire more people. If anything, it was I need to improve flexibility within my budget so I can invest more in program spend. We were in a 2-horse race with our top competitor, and they were killing us online. They were stealing out demand before it ever reached the point where someone was interested in talking to a salesperson. And so we had to shift from, thinking about batch and blast, ad hoc communications that was heavily dependent on email and events, to fairly advanced account-based marketing strategies that were reaching our audience in their moment of interest. And I didn't have time. So I had a very large marketing budget, but I had zero time and no ability to go out and hire, a large team, or, go out and add more competencies to the team. The other thing, while my budget wasn't cut, I was asked to improve the flexibility of the spend by reducing headcount. Again, it wasn't the same challenge as Faro, but it still was that I needed new capabilities, different capabilities, but I couldn't go hire them. So, of course, I turned to you a second time. This time was different. I didn't bring you a unicorn and asking you as a test to fill that role. Right out of the gate, it was, I had a point of view that creative content, email production, data analytics, even campaign management, right out of the gate, we moved to your team so that we could scale with the business. And we've gotten some preliminary results. Again, because the challenge was slightly different, you'll notice here I'm even measuring things like time to fill critical roles. We are in a very competitive environment, and as the needs of the business evolves, the average time to fill a role internally is more than 147 days. And if I need a key competency, I don't have the luxury of waiting 3, 4, 5 months. I really need that role filled and onboarded in weeks. So we've been measuring that as well. And because of the kind of re-engineering of our lead management processes, our dashboards, and our ability to kind of up-level our campaigns, we've already been able to demonstrate an improvement in pipeline growth and new business ACV. So it's a nice do-over, that's for sure.
Well, a great story. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you listening to this update today about a couple case studies. Just in closing, so 2X is a next-gen marketing managed services firm. I think we've built the only business in the space really aligned to helping bring innovation to the organizational chart and the operating model. As Lisa mentioned, we have resources that can come in quickly to add value across the many things in the middle of the slide, like driving an organizational transformation or account-based marketing or MarTech. We also have great capability being able to insource creative agency work and do that through a shared service center. We have 2 delivery centers in Southeast Asia, one in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, one in the Philippines, with amazingly talented B2B marketers that have certifications in all of the technology that you're likely thinking about. We're the largest service partner in the world for 6sense, and very deep as well in the Adobe, Salesforce, HubSpot, and Google ecosystems. And Jasper, we partnered with on April of 2022, 6 months before the rest of the world woke up to AI.
Yeah.
A few years of AI work under our belt. So if you'd like to learn more, we'll be at the Gartner Marketing Symposium in early June. Or if you missed the presentation live, hopefully this recording was a good summary. Here's our contact info in the back. Feel free to reach out to me or Lisa at any time. And thank you for giving us your ears for a little bit.